Hi, my name is Joe Porper, and I'm here to assist you on our new Model B machine. We're now going to show you some of the main features on this machine. Here are some of the features on the headstock front panel. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 switches. One is panel and foot switch. When it's on panel, the front chuck will work. If it's on bottom, it's on the foot switch. Second one is an off and on switch. The third one is a forward and reverse switch. The third one is an on and off switch, which works the lead screw. And the last knob is a forward and reverse switch. The two upper knobs are variable speed knobs to control the speed of the machine. The next feature is our tool rack that allows you to place all your tools in position, and your tray that allows you to place extra tooling on that. Our next feature is our steady rest, which is attached to the headstock. It has the mobility to move back and forth, up and down, and also has the unique way of clamping down on the shaft. And this is part of that mechanism. This mechanism will shut itself down just like that. You don't need to tighten it down real tight, and just lock it up in position. Our next feature is a chuck made by Bison, which is a top-notch company, and also that index plate that sits behind it, which indexes anywhere from 3, 6, and 8 points, which we'll show you how to use later on. Our next feature is the saddle, which travels on a manual, and also the cross feet goes in and out, which has a tool post on top of it. And we can make it automatic by turning the feed screw on and just hold on to the wheel, and that drives it automatic. If you turn the wheel, if you turn your hand off the wheel, it will stop. If you put your hand on the wheel, it'll continue to go. Our next feature is a tailstock mechanism here, which has a very easy locking mechanism on that. It has a 3-inch stroke on the quill. It has a 3/4 inch bore hole in that with an Allen screw tied down. Our next feature is the taper bar. The taper bar consists of 2 tapers. It has one straight taper and one pro taper. The pro taper is for shafts, the straight taper is for butts. Our next feature is the gauge, which is an indicated gauge on the taper bar, which allows you to adjust it back and forth. This taper bar has 2 locking mechanisms. One locking mechanism, when you unlock it and lock up the other one underneath the taper bar, that allows it to work on the taper bar. If you release the taper bar mechanism and lock the green one, that takes it off from the taper bar and rolls it right back on the rails. Our next feature is the accessory tooling that comes with this machine, which is a wrap holder, the foot switch control, variable speed, and a router, which is made by Ryobi, and 2 blades that do the cutting. And here we have some of the collets that fit the front of the shaft. Start from 10.5 millimeter to 13.5 size. We have 2 collets here. One fits the back of the shaft, and one fits the front of the joint. This collet fits the back part of the butt plate. We have 3 screws. One is 3/8 10. 5/16 14, 5/16 18. We have 2 live centers. One is a pointed one and one is a concave one. And we have a dead center. We have a key for the chuck. And we have a drill and a drill chuck key right there. Here we have the Presser Pro. And this is a tip cutter. This is a new tool. This is a tenon threader. This is a tenon cutter. And this is a tip cutter, shaper. and that aligns the tip. By doing the tip, you must take the old tip off, square the shoulders of the ferrule, shut this machine down, make sure there's no nipple in the middle of that, make sure there's no nipple in the center of the ferrule. The tip that you're about to replace on that, you must sand the back part of that tip. The next, you must use one of the super glues that are provided to you by some of these companies. I use the Pro-Bond, which is made in the United States. It's a very good super glue, and it's sold by Atlas. You put a little bit on. You don't need to put a lot of it on there. And press the tip on. And leave it out for 30 seconds. Now this tip alignment tool aligns the tip correctly on the ferrule. Move it back out, and now you're ready for cleanup. Take small cuts. Don't take big cuts, just take small cuts. You want to make sure you're going to be even with that ferrule. You don't want to cut into the ferrule. This cross feed has 2/1000s. Each line represents 2/1000s of an inch. Okay, the next step is to put this tip cutting machine on, and slowly put that nickel shape on. This is done very, very precise. You'll get a beautiful nickel shape. Now comes the cleanup of the tip. Start up with 150. We're going to 220. $320. Be organized. Make sure everything is in front of you when you do the tip. You go to 400. Go to 600. Clean the ferrule. Go to 1500. And now it's time to put the finishing touches on that tip. Use a little bit of cowhide piece of leather to polish it up. Rough it up a little bit with 80 grit paper. Voila, you got a beautiful tip and a beautiful ferrule. You have not touched the rest of the shaft. Let's take a close look at that, so they can see. Okay, doing a ferrule repair. Get the same speed, going about 1500 RPM. Put the lead screw on automatic. You don't need to go real fast, you got to go real slow on that. Depends on the ferrule material. Take the ferrule off a little bit at a time. Take about 10,000 at a time. You don't need to rush it. As we get closer to the tenon, we want to be able to measure that tenon. You don't want to pass 277. You also want to leave a 32nd of an inch of the ferrule between the wood and the ferrule. You want to leave a little bit of an edge there, because I'll show you why. It's going to really do the job a little easier. Now you start measuring up. You want to get to 277. You don't want to get past 277 because it'll be too small. We're at 292, so we need to go 10 thousandths at a time. And we need to measure it every time we go back and forth. You don't want to make it. Take your time. Be clean. Okay, we're at 277 now. The next tool is a thread maker, which we devise. It will make threads on your tenon. Put it back in reverse. Just let it go when it gets there. And you should have threads on that. And we need to measure the distance of this tenon to your ferrule. Now, if we put this ferrule on, it's going to be a little bit too long. The tenon will be too long, so we need to cut that tenon a little bit. It's about 1/4 of an inch too long, so we back it up a little bit. Let's put this machine on. And we need to cut a little bit of that. Just to see if it's there. Best way to do it is you take your calipers, measure the inside of the hole of the ferrule, and then see the distance. We need to cut a little bit more of that. Need to shape the front a little bit. Make sure once your old ferrule is out, you want to come in and square that shoulder. Make sure it's nice and square and cleaned up. The next, I use Elmer glue, which is an all-purpose white glue. One of the reasons I use this glue is because it doesn't show at the end between the ferrule and the wood when you clean up on that. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good bonded glue. We'll put a little bit on the tenon. We put a lot of it in here. Make sure it's all the way through. And we proceed by screwing it on. Try not to get anything on your machine. And when you feel it's the end of that, you take and you clean all the excess glue. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to shave this ferrule tip. We want to leave a little bit of a 32nd of an inch at the end of the ferrule there, and I'll show you why as we do the work. Okay, we do want to measure the shaft because we don't want to undercut that ferrule. So now we got 479, 0.479, and our ferrule is 511. So we know we got a little ways to go. Now we're at 501, and this is 478, 479, and 479. We got a little bit more to go. We got this is 49, and this is 475, so we got a little bit more to go. $480. Just a couple of thousand more, we're going to be in good shape. $479, $479, $479. The next thing we want to do, we want to sand the excess amount that is in between the shaft and the ferrule. We can use start up with 150, go to 220. Go to 320. and 400. Go back to your 600, clean up your work. 1500 will make it real nice and smooth. You've not taken too much of that wood out of the way. You want to take a little 80 paper. You need to be organized and find your 80 paper, which is underneath this machine. You want to clean up the front. Use a little bit of that magic touch on that tip. Use your leather burnisher. And now you got a ferrule end tip on that. Next thing, I'm going to show you how to clean the shaft up. Get yourself a little bit of Ajax or Comet or any of those. They have some cleanups on the market, but I find that Ajax has a nice, as long as you don't leave it on too long, does take all the dirt out. As you can see, most of the dirt came out of there. And you need a little bit more. This was a very, very bad shaft. Make sure you don't have any wet spots on that. Try to dry up the shaft as much as you can. You want to use a concave center to hold on to the tip. You don't want to let that go. As you can see, we got a pretty decent looking shaft. Now there's a little bit more cleaning to do on that. You can clean it as much as you want, but that Ajax will do a job for you. And some of the other cleanups on the market are available out there, and they'll do just as good a job. And you can seal it again. You can use that sealer that some of these manufacturers sell out there. You can use a wood sealer on it and seal it back down again and sand it down. And you can make this shaft look almost like brand new. We're going to talk about wraps a little bit here. First of all, we got this wrap holder. It holds the spool in place. It has a little hole. It's hard for you to see that, but it comes right through. And next, we also need to hook the foot switch on that and turn your machine on your foot switch, on your foot paddle. Next thing you need to do is make an incision with a razor blade and start your taking off the old wrap from the center. Put it in reverse and Just when you get to the end, just slowly just turn it, because you don't know what you're going to be encountering there. Well, this one was an overlap, so it came off easy. Now we'll go to the other side and take that off. You have to go back to forward. One of the reasons we do that is we don't want to come with a razor blade too close to where the refinishing is. Next, we want to clean up the surface before we put the glue on there. So we take a little one of the sandpapers, put this machine back on. Take all the excess glue off of that, sand it down a little bit. Next thing you need is a real nice file. It doesn't have to be real rough, nice and smooth. Turn your machine on and get a pretty decent speed on that. What you need to do is you need to square at the end here, get all the crud out of the way. So when you do put that new wrap on, it's going to have a good place to sit at. Be careful not to mess around with that finish. All you need to do is just clean it up. Okay, there's two ways of putting a wrap on. One by drilling a hole and putting the wrap in the hole and start up that way. And then the other way is the overlap. I like to do the overlap. I do make a little incision in there with a razor blade so the wrap could sit in there, and then I mark it. I take my Elmer glue and run it all the way across, just like that. Don't need a lot of speed, just make sure it's nice and even all the way across. We proceed by putting the wrap on. Go to your mark where you made the incision. And proceed doing that. Cut your excess off. Reverse the machine backwards, because you're not going to be able to wrap this with, and slowly just with your foot pedal, just get and guide it all the way in, and just hold it there free. You don't need a lot of tension, just enough to hold it in there. Move your you get it all the way to the end. Back it up. Just keep going all the way to the end. Make sure it's nice and tight. When you get to the end, you need to mark it. You need to mark your part. I use a piece of tape. It doesn't mark your cue, and just put it right there. I know that's the end. I back it up, back it up about, a quarter of an inch on that. I think it's about a quarter. Let's see if we got it right there. We need to cut this first. Cut another piece, because this is going to be a loop. Back it up about 1/4 of an inch. Go to your mark, add a little bit more glue. Make sure the glue is all the way around. Take that and make a loop. This loop is put under the wrap, under the string there, right there, like that. Just so it catches it. Now slowly go around real slow. Make sure it's packed good and tight. Till you get to the loop. Now you got a real tight. Insert it through the loop. And pull through. And now you got an extra string here which you want to cut off. Pull this out. Make sure there's no space all the way through. If you do have space, you can just push it together and try to take away all the space out of there. We spray the cube, put it back on forward. We want to spray it. I use the starch spray on that. Makes it nice and stiff. You don't need a lot of it, just very little. Just rub it on the cube. I also take a razor blade, and you don't need to force anything on. You just need to put it on real lightly, just to take all the imperfection of the wrap. Just enough to take all the imperfection on it. Wherever you feel it's on, spray a little bit more. And just rub it across. And this is the presser that we devised that allows you to see exactly where you put pressure on. And if you could see it from there, you could see the wheels not touching. You can see how far the wheels are going. They're not touching the cue at all. And apply a little bit of pressure on that, not a whole lot, just and you could feel already how nice this thing is. You want to get as much speed as you can on that. Now you can just back and forth. Apply even pressure. You don't need to put a lot of pressure on, just enough to pull that wrap down, that's all. Now you want to put a little bit of sealer. It's the same wood sealer that I've used on the shaft. You don't want to use a lot of it on it. You just want to use a little bit on there. And just put it on there. Just like that. Just wipe it on. And take it off. Just let it dry a little bit. And my God, you got a beautiful wrap. To finish this job and make it look real nice, put a little bit of it's a wax substance on there, and you just want to take all the glue out of there. A little bit here, a little bit here. Make the Q look real nice, and just polish the rest of the Q. Give it that nice finished look on that. And now we got a finished Q. Make sure your joint collet is on securely. Try to get as close as you can to the chuck. We provide you with that collet. And get minimum speed on that. Make sure you square the front of that. You want to hold on to this wheel so it doesn't move on you, and just clean up the front, which is a little square there, that's all. Take a little bit at a time. You don't want to run it too fast. Next thing you need to do is you got to get yourself a center drill to drill the center. Otherwise your drill will go in a little crooked. So you need these little center drills. You can buy them in a tool store. And drill your center. Next you need to drill with a 255 drill. Make sure your depth is deep enough. Then you need to thread it. We use a 5/16/18 thread hole on it. And you can do that by hand. You don't need to run the machine on that. Just go back and forth. Just back and forth. Back and forth. Relieve the chips. Just keep going back and forth. Just relieve it back and forth. I mix a little bit of an epoxy. It's a 5-minute epoxy. Don't need a whole lot of it, just enough to hold a pin in position. And drive it in there. Be clean, be organized. Now your screw should have 2 flats on that. That gives you a little bit of relief on the glue. Plus, it allows that screw to stay in there a little bit more secure. So here we go. Just drive it in by hand. You don't need to use power for that. Go in slow. Just drive that pin in there. Basically, the screw is secured in there. We're going to relieve that part of it and leave it in there. Now this thing will stay on that till the glue dries up. When the glue dries up, we can unscrew this little bolt that we made up for it to put these screws in. And basically that's all it is to doing putting a joint screw in. Make sure it's running through, and that's what you want to do. Here we're going to show you to do, if you need to do some butt plate repair, just like taking this butt plate off. And this is the collet that we supply you with, that you can hook up on your butt plate and just put it through the and you need to do your work as close as possible. Use your taper attachment to hold it. And basically this is what this is all about. Taking off the butt plate. But this is strictly to show you what to use that collet for. When you do get that collet, that's the way to use it. First thing we need to do is remove our tool post out of the way. Secondly, install our router with one of the bits in it, and this is a straight bit. This is going to give us a straight cut on your shafts. We slide our router. Now we don't want to lock it up yet because we need to adjust it to see where we're at. Now this shaft has been taken down twice already, and it's got a slight taper to that already. So we're going to take one more cut on that, and we're going to show you how to do that. We don't want to tighten it up too tight. We got a dead center going in here and a live center on the tailstock. We want to run it at a slow speed. We don't need a lot of speed on that. We need to adjust that. We need to adjust the feed screw. Now we shut everything off, and now we want to bring our work. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to allow ourselves approximately 3/4 of an inch in space on the big wheel before we start the work. So now we come in. Okay. We get as close as we can to the blade, to the shaft. Lock it in position. Bring it back a little bit, and we're really ready to go. Our taper bar works in the fashion of this. If your green lever is locked and your taper bar is loose, it will work on the straight rail. If your taper bar is locked and your green is loose, this mechanism will work on a taper bar. Let me go over it again with you. You got two levers here. One lever is to lock it up. When it's locked and the taper bar isn't loose, it'll work on your rails. You'll have a straight cut. You'll never have a taper cut on that. If your green lever is loose and your taper bar is locked, if you lock your taper bar, then it'll work on your taper bar. It'll drag it in and cut, make a cut. So remember, if you're in doubt, loosen both of them up. If you use the taper bar, lock the taper bar, loosen up the other one. If you want to use the rails, make sure you lock up the rails and loosen up the taper bar, because if they're both locked, your machine will lock up. This shaft has been cut twice already, so it still has a little warp in it. We're going to try and see what we can do. We're going to take a couple more cuts on that with this little machine here. Now again, you can put this on automatic by pushing it in one of the holes there. Now this will run automatic on that. We're going to make one more cut. We're going to make one more cut. We're going to go back and make one extra cut on that. I do not like to cut a shaft more than twice at a time. Shaft should be cut at least 8 to 9 times till we get to the desired size that we need to have it in. So just make sure you cut it twice, 3 times, hang it out. If you have 10 shafts to do 10 shafts. You don't need to reset this whole machine for that. Just do as many shafts as you need to do. And this thing has still a little bit of a wobble in there, but hopefully it'll walk itself out. Here we got some exotic wood that we're going to put some cavities in them. What I mean by cavities, we're going to put cavities in there, and then we're going to put some points in that. Now, we're going to show you how to do it. We'll start up with a round piece of exotic wood of that. We taper it basically the same way we taper a shaft, on the same principle. We try to get it to size as much as we can. Now your sizes should run at, oops, let's show you. The back part should run around 1170 and the front should run about 930. That's almost a finished point. Your router is got the pointed blade in that. That pointed blade has to be centered to the dead center. Both points have to be right on center. It makes no difference where you start. You have to be on center. Once you're on center, this comes into play, your indicator, your point indicator. You can go into 2, 4, 6, 8 points. We start up at 0. Now if we're going to make 4 points, we run the 0 first. The only thing that's running on this machine is the lead screw and your router. And just let her run out to infinity. We got our first cavity in there. Your taper bar should be locked up. Your green should be loose. Your first hole should be used on your taper bar, and approximately it's center, but you can adjust to wherever you want it to run out. We go back because we have to relieve it. Now we need to look at number 4. We need to find number 4. Number 4 is right here, I think. Yep. It's number 4. Okay, we're going to look for number 4. We're going to run it backwards. It's a little bit easier. You want to make sure that this Allen wrench, this Allen screw is locked up tightly, because we don't want to lose our depth in doing our cuts. Moved on me a little bit. Let's see. Need to get to. And here's our 4 points cut cavities. Now you need to put your squares in there, which will give you a 90 to fit right inside the cavity. These are your 90s, your little blocks. They can be a little smaller than that, and they fit right in there within a 90 degree. Use some real strong glue and use 4 of them, and you lock them up either with a rubber band, tape, anything that you can lock it up with. There's some plastic, you can make up some rings, plastic rings that will fit right on it and lock up. And put all 4 of them together, lock them all up, put it back on your machine, clean it all up, and you got a front point, and I'll show you what it looks like. Here's one we did with a 6 point. This is a 4 point, and basically it's all the same. You can go a little bit deeper on that 4 point. This actually was for 6 point. The depth on that was for 6 point. And you can see the star. And you can see the 4 point star too. And that's what it looks like. And get yourself some square pieces. They'll fit right in there. And that's exactly the way it fits right through. There are different hookups on the market, or different cue makers hook up a little differently than everybody else. They all have a little bit of technique how to hook this up to the handle and how to make it strong. You're going to have to acquire your own type of hookups. Basically this is on just point making, just to make points. But if you need to learn how to hook up a cue, you should need to know a little bit more about how to make a cue complete. Now there's more money in repairs, in doing tips, ferrules, and wraps, and get into cue making slowly. If you don't understand anything about this machine, we have an 800 number. You can call me and I can walk you right through it and help you out. Now there's a few things that I like to show you about what not to do and what to do on this machine. In conclusion, there are a lot of safeties to be dealt with this machine. When you finish your points, make sure this bar that holds the index is down. Otherwise your machine will not run, it locks up. So there's an Allen screw that you need to lock up. Lock it up. The next thing, you gotta have all your tools in order. When you finish using the router, unplug the router. Don't try to unscrew things there when things are plugged. It just creates more of a problem. When you take the router out, make sure your hands are not in there. You may be able, cut your hands in there on a pointy. It's real sharp, this thing. Put that away if you finish working with your router. The other safety feature in this, wear goggles. Do not leave your key at any time on your chuck. This is a hazard thing. Do not leave it on. We provide you with a spring that stays on that thing. A lot of people take it off. Don't leave your thing on it. It's a very, very hazard thing. The other thing is your taper bar. Make sure if you're not using your taper bar, unlock it. Unlock the taper bar. Lock up your green lever that gives you back straight motion, back and forth. When machine is not used, clean it all up. Don't leave all the dirt on it. Clean everything up. When this is not used, unplug it and put it away. Because if it's on the floor, you may step on that and you may turn the machine on accidentally, and you don't want to do that. So if you finish with your foot switch, put it away. Just unplug it and put it away. I'd like to thank all of you for watching this tape. And hopefully if you have any questions, please call me. I'll walk with you on whatever problem you have. Hopefully this machine will come very useful to you and make you quite a bit of money, as I hope to do. Thank you.